Hey guys, this is the Real Estate Podcast and it's your host, Alex Kaufman. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I need you to do me a solid. Hit that subscribe button on your phone if you haven't done so already and share this episode with just one person. It's going to help us get this information out to more people to learn about entrepreneurship and real estate. Thanks. Now let's dive into today's episode.
But if you really want to kind of 10x your life or 30x your life, I'm not talking about your money, I'm talking about your life and your fulfillment. It's going to come when you decide that you're going to trade away your power for their greatness. And when you show up that way every single day, that I'm going to make this person believe in themselves as much as I believe in them. Now all of a sudden, God took what he had already blessed me with this incredibly successful business, and he tripled the size within the next 3 years.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. Thank you for joining today. I know that you are really going to love this episode. We got special guest, Chris Meroff. Chris does a lot of things. I don't think we can cover them all in the intro, so I'm going to cover 3 of them. He is the owner of an event collective with things such as Wilco Workspaces, which is where we're hosting the Entrepreneur Real Estate Workshop coming up this Saturday. He owns a company called ROI Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. And also, oh man, I'm gonna mess it up. Say it.
Dirigo.
There
you go.
Latin for
I guide or I lead.
I guide, and this is Dirigo Collaborative, and they are a venture capital and private equity firm.
Yes,
correct?
That's right.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely glad to be here.
Good. This is gonna be an interesting one, and I'm not exactly sure where to guide our way down here, but if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about how you got started in business. I read about working for your parents coming up, right. And just tell us a little bit about your story and as much as you like, kind of how you started and got to where you're at.
Absolutely. So started working for my folks back in 1996 when I was 22 years old and didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I did know that at least at that point in life, that the typical or the traditional 9 to 5 was not probably going to work for me, in that I had a lot of big ideas, a lot of ambition, and it seemed like everybody that I worked for up until my parents really wanted to put out their kind of controls. At least I took them that way as a 22 know-it-all. But the reality of getting an opportunity with my folks kind of opened the door down this entrepreneurial path. They had both worked 20-year careers, my mom in education, my dad in technology. And so I kind of grew up in a household where they were the 9 to 5. They were, putting in the time. But they both got to a point where they really wanted to work together and they wanted to kind of spread their wings. I was excited. It gave me a great opportunity to get out of what I was doing, move back to New England. I was living in South Carolina at the time. And when I went to work for them, again, we had a startup mentality. You did everything. In fact, I joked that the first 12 months, they both still had their jobs. So I was the only full-time employee. And so people asked what I do that first year. And I literally am like everything.
Bookkeeping, marketing.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so... but I loved it because it really taught me, what that mentality would need to be as an entrepreneur.
And what were you doing in, you said South Carolina? So
I was there to go to school, but school and I didn't agree. So I went to school for about a year and a half. I went to college for a year and a half. During that time, I was a part-time student. I had a full-time job. I had a wife, and I had 2 kids.
All right.
So I got married right out of high school.
Yep.
And so jumped right into life full force. And so, man, that's all I could take was about a year and a half. And then I quit everything. I quit both my jobs. I had a full-time job, a part-time job, and school part-time. Quit everything to go sell cars in Greenville, South Carolina.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so your parents call you and they say, hey, Chris, we're going to start this up.
That's
we need
right.
some help.
That's right.
And what did y'all start up?
Yeah. So what was funny is about a year before that, they had a year leading up to it. They had all kinds of wacky ideas, from dog food to I call it widgets, making widgets, but there was a product they wanted to buy and sell. They landed on a company that really provided a perfect union of both of their careers, the technology and the education. And what we did is we helped consult with school districts and get them federal dollars to help pay for student services for students with disabilities.
Very cool.
So speech and language pathology, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We are the ones that would go in and help them figure out how to get dollars back from the feds in order to pay for those kinds of services.
Got it. So kind of like a company that applies for grants and things like that.
That's right.
Perfect.
That's right.
And so your whole life, and you were 22 at that time.
Yep.
When y'all started that. Do you think there was something with your parents? Because by this time, how old are they? 40?
They were in their late 40s, early 50s, yeah.
Do you think that maybe this was a dream they had the whole time, or maybe they just kind of, what was it, do you think?
I do think they had a dream to be entrepreneurs, but grew up in an era, they were baby boomers, and so the era that they kind of were raised in is that you put in your time. You have to be a good boy or a good girl and go to school, get a degree, go to work 9 to 5. Very much a kind of a same old mentality.
Right.
Don't ask for anything more than you've been given. Don't reach for anything. Just put your time in.
Here's the path that
here's
works.
the path. Set up your 401k. Just be responsible.
Right.
They definitely had a desire to do something, bigger and better. But it took them 20 years to figure out, or to work up the courage to take the leap.
Did you, I'm just curious, did you notice anything change within them, whether it be, emotionally or happiness or anything when they did officially make that leap?
Absolutely. Work took on a new meaning for them. It was always, they did a really good job when they raised us to not ever complain about work. But it definitely was a responsibility. It wasn't necessarily like a joy. And when they were able to work together and kind of and build their own thing, it was a complete, 180 as far as, they would love to talk about it. In fact, that was one of the issues after time, is that's all they wanted to talk about.
Right.
I think that's true for most entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But they definitely found another level of joy when it came to being able to pour in their time into their own business, and to see something they're building with their own hands grow. It was invaluable.
And do you think that kind of helped shape, obviously everything that you've done up to this point, kind of seeing your parents do that and then going to work for them and seeing how this changed who they were?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember being in it for about 6 months, and again, I'm a very tend to be very charismatic. I love to have a lot of fun. And I love people. I love interacting with people. And 6 months in, coming to the realization that this job, from a technical perspective, is incredibly detailed. I remember the day my mom handed me a notebook. And it was one of those 3-ring binder notebooks, huge thing, probably about a 4-inch, filled with Medicaid regulations and then educational regulations. And she's like, you got to learn, at least get a grasp on how this whole thing works. And I just remember at one point thinking to myself, man, do I really want to learn this? Is this something that I don't care about any of these things?
Right.
But I really decided, I'm like, well, this can set me up for the future, and it's something that I can do on my own time, and it's something that can, I think, really help me build the kind of, life that I want, which is kind of no rules, no boundaries. I just wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do. And so the irony of that is I had to do exactly what she asked me to do, which is really read and become an expert in those regulations. And I remember that moment where I just opened that binder and was like, no, I'm doing this. And it really kind of set in motion this mentality of being a great entrepreneur is the drudgery before the joy. It's like the thing you have to do. and you always keep in mind where I want to go. And so it kind of gives you that motivation to get through some of these things that you just maybe not equipped for or don't think you're equipped for. But then as you're going through it, you're like, no, I can do this.
Right.
This is very, very doable. Once I got over that hurdle, I couldn't wait to take on the world.
Yeah, well, good. And so is that company still in existence today?
No, well, it's still in existence, but I split off from my parents after 15 years.
Wow, you were there for 15 years.
15 years.
Solely doing that?
Solely doing that. And built that business. We went through some highs, some lows. But it was kind of toward the last 5 of those 15 years where my parents were kind of realizing they're wanting to think about retirement, wanting to think about a little bit more safety and security. And so this wave they were riding from an entrepreneurial perspective kind of crashed a little bit. We had some hard times. They kind of want to come back into a command and control style of kind of lockdown, like we're gonna grind our way out of this. And I just wasn't in that mindset anymore. They had unfortunately unshackled like my desire to grow and to go for it.
Right.
And so by that point, we were in either providing direct service or consulting in like 17 different states. I had traveled all over the country, working with state agencies, working with public schools, and they were kind of wanting to restrict back into New England, which is where I'm from. And so we just clashed all the time. So this last 5 years were rough. And so they finally came to me and they're like, hey, do you want to take one of your emerging markets, buy the couple contracts that we have and just kind of take it and run with it? And of course, I'm like, yes, I will do that. Absolutely. I'm sick of kind of fighting all the time. My brothers were in the business. They are not entrepreneurial. And so it was always 4-on-1 in every conversation. So I'm like, absolutely. Well, it hit me about a month later. I'm like, I think I basically got kicked out of my family business.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, okay, we're doing this thing. And so I moved my wife and family, 4 kids, from the Boston area down to Austin, Texas, away from everyone that we knew, everyone that we loved, family, friends, to launch out on my own and see if I could do it on my own.
That was your emerging market, was Austin?
That was, it was the state of Texas.
Got it.
We just decided to locate in Austin.
Very cool. You chose the right place.
We think so.
And so, all right. And so that was officially your first business.
That's my first business at 38 years old.
Okay. And how old are you now?
I am 49.
All right. So 11 years later.
That's right.
What all have you accomplished in the last 11 years?
Yeah. It's been a whirlwind. So the first 4 or 5 years were spent just like pursuing building this company. When I got here, I convinced 2 of my friends to help me. So we had 3 of us to start out. We grew that company over the first 5 years to about 70 employees.
Wow.
We went from 12th in the market to first in the market.
Here in Texas?
Here in Texas. Created one of the largest medicated schools companies in the country on our way. So every ounce of what we had done and put the hard work into created this level of success. A level of success, by the way, when I moved here, I remember thinking, man, if I can get to this, annual revenue number, that'll show everyone that I can do this. Well, by year 5, I had tripled that number in my annual revenue numbers, and so we had our Christmas party at the end of 2014, and one of the buddies that I had convinced to join me in this, we had a great time at our Christmas party. The very next day, he puts in his 2-week notice, and he had been looking for the last 9 months, and it just devastated me that he wouldn't share that with me. Again, one of my best friends in life, and why he didn't take me on that journey, I just was really, really struggling with. During this time, also trying to figure out how empathy and vulnerability kind of played into what it looked like to be a husband, father, business owner, boss, and met with a discipleship pastor every single week. And he asked me in January, so fresh after Jason left, And he was like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" And of course, my answer at that time was always fine, good, or okay, which is basically my way of not answering the question. And then by the end of the conversation, he knew something was up, and he said, "Well, who would you share your deepest fears and hurts with on this planet?" And I, made up an answer. My wife, or I've got friends I would share that with, but I knew that wasn't true. On the way home, I usually convert all emotion into anger. And so I was just raging in the car on the way home that day, raging because I'd found success in business, but I was incredibly emotionally alone. Just worked myself to the bone and had convinced myself for noble purposes. I need to show up strong, confident. I need to be a great problem solver, and I need to be able to be an amazing manager of crisis as a way to serve my employees, serve my wife, serve my kids. This idea of being vulnerable in any way, showing any kind of weakness, was just abhorrent to me. It just didn't have any place in the marketplace or even at home. Like I have a lot of demands on me, and I need to be strong for the people in my life. Created a lot of nobility around that, but the reality was I was just emotionally alone. And so at 42 years old, had the first real breakdown, just sobbing in the car, just realizing, again, incredibly alone. That really changed the trajectory of my life in business, and I think really set me up well to figure out, who do I want to be when I grow up. So for the last 7 years, it's been this journey to figure out how do I show up as a vulnerable dad, vulnerable husband, and coworker and boss in a way that eliminates loneliness and isolation.
Can you, it's very interesting, and thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
I would love to hear some example of kind of maybe how you would handle a certain situation prior to that moment, and maybe now how you would handle that situation. And the reason I ask is I think it'd be good for our viewers to hear, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story. But I mean, I have some of those same belief systems in terms of running the company and overseeing staff and everything.
That's right.
And so I'd love to hear, kind of what that difference is, even if it is just internally and not even externally.
That's right. This idea that we have to, as business owners, or again, it doesn't matter what area of life, husband, father, whatever it is, that we have to know the answer to the question, that we have to put out there into the world this idea that we are strong, like we are confident. It really kind of affected all aspects of life. But the primary was that without any weaknesses, nobody had anything to offer me. And so if I always had the right answer, if I was the first to speak, which is always what happens, I'm always or typically the fastest processor in the room. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm a very fast processor. And so even if I'm throwing out wrong answers or wrong or bad ideas, I'm usually the first one to kind of process through what's going on or how to solve where we are and what needs to get done. And it left no room for anybody else to be able to fill in any weaknesses that I obviously had. I don't know the best way to handle every situation. Mm-hmm. So I think just being first to speak was a real pragmatic or practical way that I didn't live in any kind of vulnerability. So I now really have a discipline that I try to live out every single day. And for me, that's kind of 3 phrases that I break down all the time, and I try to say them as often as I possibly can in leadership. And those 3 phrases are, I'm sorry, I don't know, and I need your help. Those 3 things represent a level of vulnerability that certainly in business we don't love. But what's happened as a result of taking that approach is that I've been able to really unleash the greatness in the people around me. And when I do that, it allows me to go way farther, way faster than I ever could have imagined. So that discipline, even though it's kind of painful in some way, shape, or form to maybe admit, I don't know, especially when you have an employee who's coming to you kind of panicked about a problem they're running into, and they're saying, hey, this thing is breaking, I don't know what to do with it. And my answer is, I don't know. It's not a fun answer to give, but it's an honest one. And I'll often kind of respond right after that and say, what do you think we should do? Mm-hmm. And by giving them that confidence that they've got this. It's not that I abandon them. It's just that I partner with them.
Right.
And that's really unleashed them in ways that they've not really even thought they, could show up as.
And how did that, looking back, how did that kind of fulfill maybe the emotional need that you needed for yourself? Just that, simple things like that.
Yeah, it really, I could see it in their eyes that they wanted to show up well for me. Like they had my back. They didn't just have the problems. Like they weren't just worried about work. They were worried about me.
Mm-hmm.
And they could show up for me in ways that I just hadn't let them in before. And so the act of saying I'm sorry, even in circumstances that I didn't really cause, or it's not about fault. It's more about, hey, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that change is happening. I'm sorry that you're having to deal with that. It just, again, allows me to be more vulnerable. And when you're more vulnerable and you're honest about how you're feeling, then it just gives them a chance to, again, enter in. You build trust.
Mm-hmm.
The answer to the question is it really builds trust. And when you have trust with someone, it just opens the door for a deeper relationship.
Got it. Well, I'm going to share this. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
So I've been sober for coming up on 8 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. When I was basically from like 11 to 21, I was under the influence the entire time. By 21, full-blown heroin addict, and in and out of jail. And basically there was no emotional connection to anything during that time, right? Basically just numb. And so when I got sober, I went to a treatment center, and in this treatment center and everything that we would do and work, a 12-step program, basically forces you, my life depended on it. It was either keep doing what I have been doing, or keep thinking I know all the answers to life in general, which obviously didn't work, or B, and die, either die or go to prison for the rest of my life, or B, listen to some people who say that they've been where I've been and say that this is the way. And it was a bunch of, at the time looking at it, it seemed dumb to me that honesty or transparency or selflessness or all these things were the key to, living a fulfilled life. But, in a sense, I was kind of, it was ultimately my decision to go through this, but I felt like I was forced. I didn't really have another option. It was either live this way of life or continue to do what I was doing and die. And so that happened, 8 years ago, and still trying my absolute best to live by those principles. I'm not perfect.
Right.
By any means, and a relationship with God was formed at that time and helped out tremendously as well. And so I've been sober for the last 8 years, and I believe in all those things. Honesty, if I do anything that either A, is dishonest, or in any situation, it really eats at my conscience tremendously.
Oh, yep.
And either that or selfishness, or resentment is a big one, because I can build up those thoughts in the car as well. And so I'm trying to think through just my personal experience with that, and working through that, and kind of ultimately working through those things with God as well. And but also, what you're talking about with running the company, and those belief systems of having to be strong and not showing weakness. And because I kind of have both of those, where I feel like, I know the importance of that, and I've been living my life, the spiritual way for the last 8 years, or at least with these, spiritual disciplines, but also at the same time feel it is important in scenarios to, be the leader, or step in and take control when needed, or have the answers for people who don't have them in the moment.
That's right.
And so, as you're talking through this, I'm thinking through, everything I've known for the last 8 years, but also what am I doing today that resembles what you're talking through. And so it's just interesting to think about.
It's a dilemma. Because my makeup as a human is to protect the weak. That's just a natural God-given. It's not something I work on or something I can brag about because I haven't done anything to develop it in myself. It's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that, though, is that there is a perception that there are weak people. And I don't really believe that that's true. I think that there are people who have yet to have somebody believe in them. And so I want to be that for my employees. I want to teach them that they can do anything they want to do when they put their mind to it. And so my goal every day is to come into work and show up in a way that allows me to be unnecessary every single day, which is the opposite of what the world teaches you you should do as a leader. The necessity that we want to feel is I have, at least for me, has been a selfish one, that I get most of my value historically in what I can do or what I can accomplish. And when I learned that works, I can create a successful business, but I create an automatic glass ceiling for everyone in the organization because I'm never going to let them show up as better than I am. And again, that can work for some people for maybe a length of time. But if you really want to kind of 10x your life or 30x your life, I'm not talking about your money, I'm talking about your life and your fulfillment. It's going to come when you decide that you're going to trade away your power for their greatness. And when you show up that way every single day, that I'm going to make this person believe in themselves as much as I believe in them. Now all of a sudden, God took what he had already blessed me with this incredibly successful business, and he tripled the size within the next 3 years. And guess what? I realized I was the glass ceiling. And I was all proud of myself at that moment. But the reality is he was like, I've got way more for you and for these people. And it allowed me to now start living out my dreams as it relates to moving into venture capital and having an even larger sphere of influence. And so people now today, they're like, you do what? And you're involved in what? And you're like all over the place. And I get to live 5 months out of the year up in Maine and 7 months here. And they're like, you got all these businesses. How do you do it? I love my answer. I just have amazing humans that have a lot of loyalty to who I am and what I represent and want to see my interests succeed. And so that only came when I decided I'm going to show up every day and focus on their greatness instead of mine.
Very interesting. It's also, too, when you had this realization, you said you had 70 employees working with the company at the time. It's also, I'm just, thinking about myself, but would wonder if you agree. It's like we have 10 to 12 staff members that work here. So 77x that. But it's kind of delusional to think that you would even be able to be involved in every decision with 70 different people on a daily basis as well,
And we've all worked for people who try.
Right.
It's like I've been, I've worked with others who were like, no, I'm going to run everything by me. I need to approve everything that's happening. And what a morale killer. I mean, it's like, well, this person obviously doesn't trust me. I mean, every decision you make in isolation as a leader, you are communicating one and only one thing to everyone else in the organization, is that you don't trust them. And so if we can just wrap our minds around that and then be brave enough to move towards your people's greatness, again, they will make your company way more successful than you can ever make it by yourself. But we think, again, the world tells us the way to do it. And that is, again, show up bigger, better, louder. And unfortunately, it's just the glass ceiling that we create.
Hey, this is Alex, and I'm the co-owner of TRE. Since the beginning of time, real estate has created more millionaires than any other investment, and I want to get you involved in a community that will help you achieve your goals within real estate investing. I know you don't have the knowledge, connections, or resources to start investing today. Most people spin their wheels over and over and over without ever actually taking any action to successfully start investing. That's why I want to get you involved in our community so that you can get the hands-on support, training, and meet the other members that you can start doing deals with in order to start investing in real estate. You need to get in the room with the right people who can help you achieve your goals and get the hands-on support and one-on-one training that you need in order to start investing. Just click on the link in the description to join the entrepreneur community today.
So what would we'll circle back to this at the end as well. How much time do you have?
I have plenty of time.
Okay. So we'll circle back to this at the end, but what do you think, and you've mentioned it, but if you could reiterate it, for those maybe who are currently in the position that you found yourself in at that time, what would be your top piece of advice for them to kind of break through that and realize that they are the glass ceiling? And
I think the best way to do it is to find one other person, either inside or outside your organization, that you can ask them to hold you accountable. I thankfully had a couple of people inside the organization, but I also had a handful of folks outside. And the accountability through community is so critical. This goal or ideal that we might have in getting there, again, I didn't want to be lonely. Well, that's great, but what am I going to do? Well, it takes other people saying, you know, what have you done this week? Have you shared anything that you're scared to share with someone? No. Okay, well, then you don't really want to fight your way back out of loneliness. So just people who are willing to be honest with you and hold you accountable to the man that you want to be. I just feel like that's an important component in this journey. It took me 12 months, by the way. So this realization I came to, it took me all of 12 months to really step into it fully. And it was 12 months of like fighting against it, 12 months of like, you know, questioning, is it going to be worth it? Like, this is kind of gross. I remember the first time that I let another employee ask me a question, like, how are you doing? And I knew that they meant it. Like, how am I doing? And I remember the first time, it was 3 months in, like daring to actually say, I'm not doing well. You know, I'm sad. The idea of telling another human, like first of all, how do I describe how I'm feeling? I don't know. Happy, sad, mad were the only words I knew as it related to emotion. I didn't want to feel any of those. So to step into that and to say how I'm feeling and then why I'm feeling that way, oh my gosh, just not a comfort zone at all. And so I had to have people around me who were going to hold me accountable to be the kind of man that I claim I want to be. At the end of the day, we do it in business. We do it in every other phase of life where we're like, we wrote it. We probably wrote a business plan. Yeah. And so most people who write business plans or have an idea for business, they not only just write one. The one that we write at the beginning of every business is incredibly, almost ridiculously optimistic. Nobody's ever written a pessimistic business plan. Right. So the goal is that you write when you come up with this theory of who you want to be in the future, but then you have to have people around you who can help you get there. And that was really that was the first big step I had to take.
Yeah. I think that's critical as well. It was for me when I was getting sober.
Yeah, that's right.
To be able to have plenty of men to speak to about these things. And it's funny when you, in the recovery community, when you got, you know, a bunch of guys who, I never went to prison, but, you know, a bunch of big, bad drug dealer, been in prison, you know, talk about their feelings and things. And it's actually a really beautiful thing because that's right. Where the, you know, true happiness and freedom comes from.
Yes. Yeah, I say now, like, I am usually one conversation away from tears. And I'll tell people I've never felt alive like I do now because of that.
Yeah.
There's something about it that is just so human. And I just feel like most of us hide from that, especially guys, most of our lives. But I wouldn't trade where I am now. We were just at one of our networking events this afternoon, for lunch, and started to tell the story. And about halfway through telling the story, I'm like, what are you doing, man? You know this is going to end in, you know you're going to end, this story's only going to lead to you having tears in front of people. Like, what are you doing? So it's like leaning into it or pulling away. I pull away because it's not comfortable. I still don't like to be vulnerable. In fact, I get vulnerability hangover. I know, for instance, we're going to do another one of our networking events tomorrow, and I'm going to be very tempted to never tell this story again.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go away. I've been at it for 7 years, and I'm going to have my team hold me accountable to be the man again that they know I want to be.
Yeah, and it's a good thing though. I mean, you know, just in relationship with God as well, right? Like that's the continuance necessity for reliance on those types of things and asking for help. And otherwise, if we were just perfect, then
that's right.
There'd be no need for God
that's right.
or anything like that. We'd we'd just be existing.
Exactly. I think of one of a verse hit me at one point in life where it was like, in your weakness, you are strong. Paul said it. Now, growing up, I always thought there was a verse out there, and there is, that says, in your weakness, he is strong, which that's true too. But Paul says, in our weakness, we are strong. If we can admit our weakness and actually bring people in to help us, I think of my poor wife. She tried for so long. She would come to me with anything, she has no problem expressing emotion. So she would come and say, I got this thing that's going on and I'm sad about it. And I thought my role was to just explain to her why she didn't need to feel sad about it anymore. Here's how you fix it. And so the idea of empathy, I just had no clue, what that was like. But she was willing to give me that. And then I just didn't know how to deal with it. But most people, over time, they'll figure out how to kind of step in and provide you with comfort through the lens of just being with you in that emotion, through empathy. And so, it's one of those things that we tend to run away from. But the reality is it's the only way that other people can feel like they can have some kind of value in your life. And again, for somebody who's maybe, and I hate when people tell me this, but I have a larger than life personality, and when I walk into a room, people just feel like they shrink away a little bit. And so if I'm always living in that kind of strength and I'm not really aware, then I don't really make any room for anybody to kind of enter in and do this life with me, which is what we're desperate for, community.
Right. Well, that's really beautiful. And so that happened 5 years into.
Yep.
And what was that business called, or what is it called?
It's Medicaid to Schools, or MSB was the name of that consulting firm, and held that until January of this year.
Okay.
And had an exit with that company. Just a few months ago.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So you started that here 11 years ago.
Yes.
5 years in, you had this breakthrough.
And then 3 years later, so 2018, started to take a lot of the capital out. One of the mentors I had when I first got to Austin, Brian Smith, who runs S3 Ventures, I just was like, man, I want to do that. I really love the business of business. Being an operator, I can do it. I'm good at it, but that's not as much of a love of me of like the metrics of how to build a business, how to scale it, and then how to sell it or how to spin it off. So that's really what we started to pivot in 2018, 2019 into venture capital by really bootstrapping my own fund through the revenue, through the profit of my consulting firm.
And so y'all started that in 2018?
Yes.
You and a couple partners, or you and some other wonderful humans?
Just me. And then I had a group called Managing Partners we're not financial managers, financial partners, but they were partners. These were people that I had with me during the growth and scaling of my business, again, who I trusted. They were my people. They were my community. And so I brought them on as managing partners with the goal that as of an exit, they would gain financial partnership with me in the venture capital. And that's what we've done this year. Yeah.
Okay. And so venture capital. So tell us how you chose the name.
Dirigo. So Dirigo is on the state flag of Maine. So I'm from the Northeast. And then we spend our summers up in Maine. I've got a farm up there that we operate. And so I just love all things Maine. And so we took that. It's, again, Latin for I guide or I lead. And so the idea is our thesis kind of on the venture capital side is we really want to invest into employee-centric owners, founders, and entrepreneurs. We want people who love people. And we want to guide them. And that's why I've created DCX Community, which is kind of in a way, a parachurch organization that's really designed to lead leaders and to teach them how to call out the greatness in their employees, how to love and serve their people in a way that they feel known, heard, and valued every single day, how to create organizational alignment so that you guys are the whole team's working toward the same goal every single day. And so that's why we wanted that name. We wanted this idea that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, we want to allow for employees to find fulfillment at work. Fulfillment is this very elusive thing. 72% of the people on the planet hate what they do or who they do it with. And that to me is just a heartbreaking statistic, that most people don't find fulfillment at work. They look at it as a necessary evil.
Right.
If I want what I want, I got to go to work so I can get it. And so they live for the weekends. I remember one story, we were on vacation, and I'm down in the lobby of this hotel, and I'm working away, sending out emails. I'm just, working. And this couple walks by me, and I overhear her say to her husband how sad that he feels like he has to work while he's on vacation. And that bothered me, and I went back and talked with my wife. I'm like, hey, does it bother you that I'm working early in the morning? She's like, no, I don't care. Well, then later on, I got to thinking about it. How sad that they have to take a week of vacation to find happiness. Like, I'm happy all the time. I love my work. I love what I'm doing. I don't need a vacation to go find a bit of joy throughout the year.
Right.
And so it just got me thinking, that's most people, man. They live for vacation. They live for weekends. Sunday night comes and they're like, oh, crap, I got to go back to work on Monday. We want to create environments, and we want to work with leaders that we can, again, allow for employees to get excited about what they're doing and who they're doing it with. Now, we know that not every job every part of every job is thrilling. We get that. But we can always look back when we have buckled down with people that we know love us and we love them, and we lock arms and we do this hard thing. We can look back and feel satisfied, feel fulfilled. Do I want to do that every week and have to work my butt off? No. But man, we can appreciate it and we can feel good about it. And our body can actually release a chemical that makes us feel pretty good that we did this hard thing. And we really want our leaders in our organizations to focus on showing up in a way that allows their employees to find that kind of fulfillment. So that's why we chose I Guide or I Lead.
Got it. And that started in 2018.
Yes.
And since then, and you just bootstrapped it with your own capital from the company.
Yes.
And since then, how many companies have y'all helped out?
We probably well over 24.
Okay, so 24 in about 5 years.
Yes.
And when y'all do this, so you're obviously providing some sort of capital, correct?
Either capital or we will bootstrap a business ourselves.
With them?
Yep, with them.
Got it.
Yep.
So, and in exchange for some sort of equity stake or some sort of debt repayment?
Yes.
I'm sure it differs.
Yep, diverse. Oftentimes it's just debt. Sometimes it's equity. Yep, all over.
Okay. And so do you feel like, obviously, I believe so, but do you feel like that completely separates you guys from the remaining private equity firms who are like, all right, here's your check, versus, hey, let's really transform the entire organization here from not just a financial and business perspective, but also human and emotional and team perspective?
Yes, exactly. We feel like our better mousetrap is not only our ability to what we feel like can find the right people to partner with. So we're very picky about that. We want our owners, founders, entrepreneurs to be focused more on soft skills than hard skills. We want them to be focused on the best versions of themselves, because we know that'll give their employees the best chance that they'll be employee centric, that they will do whatever they can to show up for their employees. And what we want to do is we just want to kind of walk along that journey with them, be that accountability to say, hey, when this thing happens, we don't want you flying off the handle. We want you to walk in there with poise, and again with this idea that you're sorry, you need help, and you don't really know, to empower the rest of your employees. And so we feel like organizational alignment and then scaling is really, really the way that we can help them grow their businesses they want.
Right. How do y'all find these businesses to partner with?
Man, it's been a lot
Or
of.
how do they find you?
Yeah, it's been right now a lot of referral. We've got some folks on our team who are just really great at connecting. We're part of amazing networks of people, and yeah, we keep saying like, man, how far can we stretch our network here before we start running out? But every time we think that, we get introduced to 6 more people that we just fall in love with, and we're like, man, like we got to figure out a way to partner with them.
Mm-hmm. And are you pretty heavily involved with these individual companies, or do you have a team that kind of comes in and we got a little process in place of onboarding and taking it to the next step?
Right now, we're kind of working out the timing, and so we want it to be in the right timing by which these owners, operators, entrepreneurs, where they can hear what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just want to partner with them, kind of give them some options on how to plug in. This is where the organization DCX community that we've got up and running through our table networks and our conference that we put on, and then the curriculum that we write is really about partnering with them where they are. But we've got a team of people that we put in play in order to really come alongside where we can, and in a way that allows them to feel like that we're not babysitting them or feeling like they don't have it, but hey, we are a support system for them. It's the way we hedge our bets with our investments. I know what it takes to build a business. I know what kind of strain and stress that causes. I've been there. And so what we just want to do is come alongside and love them in a way that gives them the chance to show up as their best self.
Right. All right. And is this kind of your main focus, would you say?
It is my main focus now. So I've walked away, kind of retired from the inner workings of the venture capital firm, and outside of most operational responsibilities of my businesses. I've got a couple lingering that I'm working on, but for the most part now I am full-time in, again, this DCX community, do some writing, some speaking, a lot of leadership development.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so what is where do you see the next 5 years? What's the goal right now moving forward?
Yeah, our goal is to create sustainability so that we can have a further reach for leaders. So we've got a massive conference coming up. We're excited about October 11th and 12th. We've got some great speakers. We everything we do is faith-based, but we are putting on a conference. And this conference, the first day is faith forward. The second day is not. The first day, we've got Tim Tebow coming. It's going to be a faith and work celebration and really focus on, making sure that we show up as our best selves at work, our whole selves. And then the next day, we've got Pat Lencioni will be our main speaker, and John Acuff and Vanessa Van Edwards and Dr. John Deloney, and it's going to be a blast, man.
Where's that at?
That'll be up in Cedar Park at the
Wilco?
Crossover.
Oh, Crossover.
Yep, right next door to Wilco.
Yep.
And so that'll be kind of a big kickoff point for us to again launch into sustainability around the networking events that we put on, called the Table Network, all over the city, and then curriculum, and then I'll be releasing a book, my next book, around that same time.
What's the first book?
Is called Align.
Okay.
4 simple steps to create employee fulfillment. I don't even know the name of my own book.
And when did you write that one?
I think it was 2019.
It's very cool to see how this has changed your life.
Yes.
Do you feel like you weren't very employee centric prior to that, or maybe you felt like you were, but it wasn't the way you needed to be?
That's the better way to say it. So I thought I was doing a great job, and the metrics were saying I was, and that we were successful.
Mm-hmm.
But what it showed me when my best friend resigned without bringing me along is that I was really focused on, I was a client-centric company. And so client-centric can create a lot of success for your clients, but it really isn't designed to really know your employees. And by knowing them, by making them feel known, it really unlocked my employees in ways I never even thought possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's really cool to hear that story. And obviously, prior to this conversation, I didn't know any of this, and I'd read about in your bio and everything. But
Yeah.
it's really beautiful hearing all this, because I'm sure every single thing that you do involves this story and involves
That's
this,
right.
being the main focus. And so I just know that all these organizations and everybody you're with, I'm sure it's just a really beautiful thing.
Every company, we all have these ups and downs, but it's just dedication to figure out how we can do it together. That we know at the end of the day, it's worth it. Not every employee is ready for it. It's kind of weird to some, because when we say, how are you doing? We don't necessarily mean like on that report or on that project, but like, how are you doing? And so we know it's not for everyone, but for those who have embraced it in organizations, they thrive.
Yeah. Well, so the goal is to continue to build out DCX community.
Yes.
Continue to help people and businesses and people inside all organizations throughout the United States. Do you ever go help anybody outside of U.S. at all?
We have our first kind of site set on our first international. One of the things that I'm a partner in is a record label, and we're focusing on some worship music. And we have an opportunity to kind of dive into going to India to kind of reimagine what Indian worship can look like there. So I'm excited about that possibility.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's the record label called?
Live DCX.
Live DCX.
Yeah.
What does DCX stand for?
Develop yourself, connect with others, so that we can experience transformation.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what else do you think would be beneficial for our viewers to know? A lot of people here listening in are either looking to start investing in real estate. They're real estate agents. Interested in real estate. We really believe that our core values are opportunities for everyone. Believe it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, specifically within real estate.
Yes.
You have the opportunity to create wealth and be successful. It doesn't matter your
Yep.
skin color, gender, where you're from, my background. I had my background, didn't go to college. My partner, Matt, he got his master's degree in real estate. So it doesn't matter any of those things.
That's
so
right.
long as you put in the work and the effort, you can be successful.
Yeah.
Another one we have is with, not for. So we believe in working with people, not for people, including the agents with us and employees. And then a no fear attitude. You kind of have to live this way of life that we do and that you do. You kind of have to be able to, not that you won't experience fear, but you're willing to walk through the fear.
That's right.
And so a lot of people listening, they may be listening at work right now at 4:00. I don't know what time it is, but at 4, I'm going to be joining a call with an engineer who wants to start building some passive income through real estate investing. They may be looking to start their own business. They may be scared to. They may have a very successful business. So what would be your advice to leave them with?
Yeah, first of all, I would say that real estate is definitely one of the areas that we focus in a lot on from an investment strategy perspective. And so we love businesses, but we love real estate as well. 86% of the country's wealth is in real estate. So it's a really, really important investment strategy. And so I love that. The reality of investing in real estate is, like you said, anybody can get involved at any time. And so, I tell my kids this all the time. I have 4 adult kids, and I tell them, man, don't do a 401k. Don't count on any of that. Like, take matters into your own hands and invest into real estate. That is something that you can control. I know that there's ups and downs to the market, but if you can learn how to ride that out, that is the best place to set your money for sure. So no, I love that whole market. I love the way you guys are approaching it. We talk about all the time this idea that we need to overcome our fear. That's really what our networking events are about. This week, ironically, is this whole idea that fear it cripples us and it creates only misery. We were not given to a spirit of fear. So overcome that fear. Don't rely on the government to help you out. Take matters into your own hands and go invest.
Got it. You heard it here.
That's it.
Where can everybody learn more about DCX Community, the events you're putting on?
Yeah. DCXcommunity.com is the best way to connect with us, find out what we're doing. We do have one of our networking events up in Cedar Park tomorrow at 11. We'd love to see anybody come out. We serve a nice, great lunch because I do own an event company, and we have our own chefs. And so great food, great conversation.
The fajitas tomorrow?
I'm not sure what we're having. I think it's pork.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, and if it's the same pork we had today, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the networking events, how can anybody join? You have to sign up?
Yeah, you can show up at the door, buy a ticket there or online, and you can do that through dcxcommunity.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you very much. This was a very beautiful story, and I think that a lot of people will take a lot from it. I know that I did. And so I'm really, thankful that you came and shared your story. And anybody who wants to learn more, go to dcxcommunity.com. And hopefully we see you at the event that you're putting on in May.
Yes.
Or August. When is it?
It's in October.
October, sorry.
Yeah.
Not May or August, in October. All right. Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great.